Players like him and Dog, and nowadays I guess Zalay, are players that I respect a lot because, like I said, they do it all. Whereas Virtual, maybe a player that's unknown to a lot of the West.
Mm-hmm. This is the guy that streams the meme stuff.
Yeah.
But he makes every playoffs, every single one. He's the biggest money earner ever. And even this season, when he hasn't really played tour stops, he's 23 wins and only 9 defeats.
Yeah.
So when he does turn up, he wants to win and often does.
And he's, I like to call him the honorable finalist from the 2015 Hearthstone World Championship. A lot of people think that he made it to the finals because he lost to Osaka in the semifinals.
That was the pretendy final.
Yes, he lost to Osaka in the semifinals, but the level and caliber of play in that series was worthy
insane.
of a final.
I mean, there's that freeze mage match that anyone who saw it just doesn't forget.
I know you're going to know this because you're Lorinda and you know everything, but a lot of people forget who the actual second placer was from 2016 or 2015 World Championship. It was Hawthorne. Yeah, so
on the spot there without any rehearsal. Thank goodness.
Yeah, me and Lorinda combined are nearly a complete Hearthstone encyclopedia.
Yeah, except when it comes to actually playing the game.
When it comes to actually playing the game,
who knows?
We don't know anything.
We don't watch it anyway.
Yeah. We just look at the results. Nothing else matters. This is awkward.
What was banned? Neither was paid attention.
I don't even care.
So, Rogue versus Hunter. I assume that Thijs' OTK Paladin probably got banned.
I would assume so. It has a lot of great matchups. Controlling style does well against Virtual's faster lineup with even Shaman, Odd Rogue, and the even Paladin plus Spell Hunter.
And I think overall, Thijs is going to have a bit of an uphill battle in this one, I think.
Yeah. So this is interesting to me. Virtual played the tracking and had the option of Zul'jin, Rockdalar, and Hunter's Mark. So an interesting note to keep in mind is Virtual won't have access to those big spell boosters in Rockdalar and Zul'jin for the remainder of the game.
Yeah, and the reason Spell Hunter's viable is there's just those 2 cards plus Rexar that you want. The reason it's become more viable is because of Zul'jin. Throwing 2 of them away at the start, it seems dodgy, but actually, if you get to the point where you could be playing a Zul'jin, you're either won or lost
anyway.
next turn
exactly.
Anyway.
So I like the choice because how Odd Rogue operates, that it sticks a very big threat onto the board relatively early and snowballs that threat out of control. If you leave as a Hunter an unchecked Vicious Fledgling or an unchecked Tench Clan Thug, you're probably going to lose the game.
Yeah.
So that's where Hunter's Mark comes into play. And also, a lot of times against Odd Rogue, just playing a beefed up Spellstone oftentimes will just win you the game because you have so much support to back it up. And it's really hard for Rogue to play around secrets super effectively because they often don't go super wide on board. They have a few medium-sized threats, and it makes it really difficult to play around things like Freezing Trap or Wandering Monster.
Back to my side is also, if he gets that far, it just starts to really counter your opponent's board pretty rapidly.
Oh, yeah.
And the Crushing Walls. Yeah, this is a couple of turns of pain followed by a really good position if he comes out the other side.
Yeah.
Thijs does have the hand to start punishing a missed removal turn. He's definitely got the beef there ready to go. But the Hunter's sitting pretty, having taken no early damage and not really facing down a board to speak of. He's got a plan as well. I'm not telling you what it is.
All right, Lorinda, for the rest of this match, I am not going to provide a single piece of analysis.
Okay, well, I was expecting that. I've done my research on the casters as well.
I rarely do, but this match I'm going to actively try not to.
Okay.
And the thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a bunch of some obvious, some not at all obvious questions.
Okay. What do I win? Oh, dear. Bad question. Okay, let's go with the questions.
If you do it correctly, you don't win anything. But if you don't do it correctly, you lose everything.
Oh, I don't like this sort of idea of winning and losing. It's not what I had in mind.
Why did you pick the Wandering Monster?
Because it was there to be picked. There's no minions for the Snake Trap, and the other secret was probably not good either. The only reason he took his time was to make it look like he had a choice.
Do you think Hunter's Mark plus Eaglehorn Bow was a valid play?
It seems to have removed a minion.
Is Thijs going to play around crushing walls?
Unlikely. Because he won't have like more than 2 minions.
Is To My Side more likely to summon one of the animal companions more so than others?
Yeah, there's 3 of them that get summoned load, but the 4th one never turns up. I can't get the 4th one no matter how hard I try.
Why did Virtual pick the Wandering Monster from the secret plan if he knew that he was going to draw a Wandering Monster the following turn?
Because 2 Wandering Monsters leaves your opponent wandering.
Do you think weaving in the hero power has a lot of value in this matchup?
It depends what your opponent's health total is. If they're down to 4, then it's pretty good. But if they're on 30, you can do it. What's
the best card in Spell Hunter?
There is no best card in Spell Hunter. They are all equally amazing.
If you had to pick one?
Depends what you're up against.
If you're up against Odd Rogue?
Hunter's Mark on turn 1. Off tracking.
I don't like that answer. Give me a different answer.
All of them. Oh, Wandering Monster's pretty good. They're all good. Eaglehorn Bow's pretty good.
All right, so Wandering Monster. You heard it here first. Lorinda thinks Wandering Monster against Odd Rogue is the best card in Spell Hunter.
You just let me say what I liked. I thought I'd just continue down that route until you stopped me.
All right, I'll provide analysis now. I'm sorry, Lorinda.
It's all right. So, what are the 2 secrets?
Wandering Monster and Freezing Trap.
Like the pause there. What was banned?
I have no idea.
Excellent.
That's a great question.
So, Thijs building up the board as per the point of the deck.
Yeah, this is gonna be brutal. Virtual basically needs... Well, first of all, he needs to dodge Divine Shield or Stealth, which he did not. And then second step to that process would be to pick up some way to deal damage. He does have an Arcane Shot. Flanking Strike would have done the job. He can just rip a Deadly Shot and hope that it hits.
Told you he wouldn't play around crushing walls.
Yeah, it's still quite a ways away, though. I think Virtual will be very dead by the time that happens.
I think you want to buff 2 minions. That's usually a good idea.
Yeah. So I think this is going to be one of the quickest game 1s we've seen in a while. He can take out this Car Creeper, but he is taking a beating, and Thijs still has the Fungomancer or the Dagger to check for the Wandering Monster or second Freezing Trap.
Yeah, Misha dies to the Slayer. If it even comes off the To My Side, if he's even alive next turn.
Yeah.
Important game 1 for Thijs.
Yeah.
We're saying his lineup wasn't like quite matching up to Virtual's, but it's not far behind. Like 1-0 is definitely significant here. It's not like you're going to just get trashed 3-1.
Yeah. Potential lethal here.
It's not going to cut it.
Actually, no potential lethal. Because even with Wind Fury, only puts it down to 6, and then he'd be able to... He could have Southsea Deckhand first and tried to play around that, would have put him down to 2 life. So not quite there yet. But I mean, this is effective lethal, right? There's just no way that Virtual makes that at S1 alive.
And he did play around crushing walls.
He did play around crushing walls. Still doesn't matter because we're going into turn 6, but hey.
But just in case your opponent somehow deals with this undealable with board.
Yep.
Always good though, like joking aside there from the meme, just for a moment, to get into the habit of playing around stuff when you're in a tournament like this, because not so much in this Invitational, but in some events, they're long days. If you just, by the end of the day, if you've not been playing around it when it didn't matter, you just plop things on the board, you can end up in a bit of a pickle if you're not careful.
Yeah, you can get in, that's a good habit to get into for certain cards. There's some that just really don't matter most of the time, and some that have detrimental effects if you play, especially on ladder, right?
Yeah.
Which is, makes sense for most of the people that are watching now because they don't play in tournaments, they mostly play on ladder. But Crushing Walls is one of those things where unless you're going to get the juiciest Fungomancer possible by placing certain minions in the middle.
Or unless your only loss is to Hydra.
Yeah.
In which case you play around Crushing Walls and just lose because of it.
Then there's really no detriment to playing around Crushing Walls a lot of the time. But it doesn't matter. I mean, we're just trying to find something to talk about because there was really nothing to give there as far as analysis because of the fact that Thijs just ran away with the game. That's how Odd Rogue operates. They kind of just stick a minion. If you don't answer it, they win the game. That's how Odd Rogue works. That's why it's been a force in the metagame for some time. That's why it even a new set, they run most of the time 0 new cards.
But there are some decks like that.
Rumble.
Whenever, because we're calling this a new set in a way, because the nerfs kind of made it another new set, two for the price of one. There are certain decks like Odd Rogue, like Zoo, that can quite often abuse the slightly untuned factor of new decks, and they slowly drift out of the meta. No one was playing Odd Rogue a month ago. 3 months ago, Saiyan was destroying the world with it.
Yeah.
Because it's slow, not much to say until we know what it's going to be.
The benefit of Conquest is that you get to see a reasonable amount of deck diversity, because you don't, like, for instance, last year's standing, you see the same deck over and over, because if you win with the deck, you stay on it, you can 3-0 with the same deck, basically.
Well, Virtual with another good matchup, which is odd because looking through his lineup, they're pretty much all good matchups.
They're pretty much
you say that a lot.
They're pretty much all good matchups, but this happens the end of a cycle, the end of a format goes one of two ways. Either every matchup is incredibly polarized. So I want to start this off by saying that decks are very refined towards the end of a cycle, and that's right now, right? Because we don't have another set before the standard rotation happens near April. I think the beginning of April, sometime around there. Or all the matchups are very, very close because players, especially with Conquest, just bring the strong lineup. Yep. They bring 4 very well-rounded decks that are super refined, and so you end up with 52-48, you end up with, 55-45 as like the high end of variance in certain matchups. So
it's the ebb and flow of the tournament cycle.
Yes. This is the ebb and flow of our cast.
TJ's looking really glum about the ebb and flow of this cast right now.
Lorinda and I do not get to cast together very often. In fact,
get it right,
we've only cast together twice.
Correct.
One in person and one online.
Yep. Impressed.
I was nervous about that one. If I got that one wrong, you would have been mad at me for a week.
Yeah, well, to me, it was just Tuesday. Seems like a good roll. And with the deadly shot here, Thijs isn't going to have the option to do the thing that he likes to do, which is just play one massive minion. You have to sort of work around things a little bit. But Virtual's doing nothing for the next 2 or 3 turns.
Yeah, Spell Hunter does have quite a bit of just hard removal. Virtual's only running 1 Hunter's Mark, but a lot of times you run 2 Hunter's Mark, 2 Deadly Shots, Flanking Strike, and can be hard removal, crushing walls. So they're not too worried about big threats as long as they can isolate those threats or be able to push past them if there's no taunts in the way with Deadly Shot or Hunter's Mark respectively.
It's such a weird deck. When I first saw like iterations of this, way sets ago, you look at the deck and you're like, well, this could just never beat aggro. How do you beat aggro with this deck? And then you just play it and you're like, oh, how does aggro ever beat the Hunter? It's like, it doesn't have any sort of board control, apparently, but it turns out all those secrets and combined with candle shots and other weapons, just get it done. It also turns out that Spellstone's a heck of a card. You win a percentage of your games, a decent percentage, just by having that card in your deck and playing it on turn 4 or 5.
Many Spellstones are like that. Not so much.
Good point.
Not so much for Hunter. Hunter is basically just, there's not many Spellstones that just build a board with a pretty easy to meet condition early enough in the game.
It's funny how no one really moaned about the Hunter one at the time it was released because it was Hunter who cared.
Yeah, and
I suspect people will start moaning reasonably soon about it.
Nobody moaned about the Druid Spellstone until they realized that
it was broken.
The Druids, well, in a nutshell, it's not. Because the condition is reasonably hard to meet. But it was just the rest of the Druid package was so good that you throw Spellstone on top of it.
Yeah, and it filled the one weakness that Druid had, which was that spot removal slot.
Spot removal.
And it turns out that getting armor became that much easier, so the Spellstone became that much more powerful. Yeah. Getting into the crux of this one, though. And Virtual's got to manage his Rock Dalar Rexar ordering how he would like to. If you play Rock-Dalar first, you obviously have many turns where you don't really get to Rexxar for much.
Yeah.
But if you play Rexxar turn, then you almost never get to Rock-Dalar. Because you're busy building beasts and you don't always play them a turn. You get them and suddenly you fill your hand back up. The instinct is always to go for Rexxar as quickly as possible. That's definitely not always correct, especially against Warlock, where getting rid of your hero power can be a bad thing.
Yeah.
It keeps them on their toes if you can just finish them in a couple of hits.
Especially with Rock-Dalar, because there actually is a significant amount of direct damage in the Hunter spell arsenal. Kill Command, Baited Arrow, Arcane Shot, even like Animal Companion or Unleash the Hounds can sometimes push damage through, so.
Arrow. I wonder if it's just tempting to just use that now. You're not under any pressure, and the arrow's not going to get a lot done over the course of the game.
Yep. You can also dump 2 spells from your hand to make more space for Rock-Dalar, and this Twilight Drake is not trading super efficiently because you don't really want to trade over the 1 health Sousy Captain because it's a lot of wasted damage, but you don't really want to attack at all for risk of it being.
But you don't want to mess around for too long either, otherwise you're going to get Zul'jin doing his thing.
Yeah.
Spraying cards all over the board. Just that Thijs running Mossy Horror, sort of. There's like 1 slot, isn't there, in Warlock, maybe 2.
Yeah, it's been mostly Mossy Horror, I feel, has been mostly phased out because Odd Paladin kind of disappeared from the metagame because of the change to level up. Token Druid, I guess, isn't really run anymore. Druid itself isn't really run anymore.
Just by orange, that's it now.
Yeah. And the decks that you are going to face don't really run too many 2 attack and below minions. I mean, even if you look across Virtual's lineup, the only deck that it really has much of effective against is the Even Shaman.
Yeah.
Which it's great against.
And I think it's a fair meta call to expect a lot of Even Shaman here. It's doing very well in sites that tell you percentages.
Yes. Which are deceiving, especially in a tournament environment.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I note them down usually as a guideline in case there's something drastically wrong with my analysis, but usually, yeah, you can work out what's wrong with them. But in tournaments, like you say, different things happen. The tech cards are completely different to average cards, which is what you're using if you use stats.
Yeah. It's amazing how just a few differences in your deck can change your matchup so significantly.
Yeah, I mean, the clearest and most obvious example is the Shudderwock Mirror, where if you just, or the old Shudderwock Mirror, not anymore, where if you just played Hemet, you just became overwhelming favourite.
Yep.
There's better examples, but that's like the easiest to picture. Just 1 card and you just go from 50-50 exactly into, I don't know, 70-30 or something.
Yep. Another smaller example might be Void Ripper and Odd Rogue.
Yep.
What else?
So Black Knight in the Warlock Mirror is a thing that is huge, because then you just dump your 7/7s down and your opponent can't dump theirs down, and that works out really nice.
Or Sacrificial Pact.
Yeah, we got this. We're analysing, TJ.
We are analysing. We've done it. By golly, we've done it.
It's only taken several years.
Ooh.
Nice. You're a virtual fan or a reality fan, either way, you probably enjoyed that one.
This is a nice turn.
Correct play, though, is to deadly shot first and hit the giant.
Because then you get another deadly shot.
Yeah. However, the safer play, and one that intelligent people make, is this one.
Whoa. Explosive shot, double tracking to my side, and a couple of okay secrets. Overall, I'd say a mediocre rock dealer. He dealt some rocks for sure.
I think double tracking might be a little bit better than it looks, actually. I quite like. I think above mediocre.
Yeah. I don't think fatigue really comes into play here, because as soon as you find Zul'jin,
Yeah, and
you're probably going to run away with the game as long as you played a decent amount of spells.
Just make beasts and put things back in your deck. Just put raptors back in there, you'll be fine. Just get them every time.
Try and get poisonous from this adapt so you don't have to use the Hunter's Mark on the Lich King. But if not, you can always go for... depends how Virtual wants to play it. You can go +1/+1 and just trade in Huffer. You can also use his health as a resource. You can use Hunter's Mark and preserve his board.
I like the health as a resource play because he's still got another weapon in hand, so getting through those charges is more efficient.
Or you can do both. You can just pick up +3 attack, Hunter's Mark, then attack with the Rockdalar into Lich King and push for...
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Choose to keep it narrow on the board. The opposite of wide.
Tall.
Yeah, okay. But it's not really that tall, is it?
No.
I watched that stream too.
I don't think this board is neither wide nor tall.
It's narrow.
I don't think it's
not a word I want to be saying very often. There's got too many R's in it.
I don't think it's narrow either.
What do you think it is?
Stout.
Stout.
Virtual going with the stout board position here.
New phrase. Put that in my book.
Ebb and flow of minion pressure.
So Thijs is managing to generate pressure, but he's got to generate so much with his 28 to get through, and Virtual with his double tracking, plus a reasonable looking hand. I mean, misdirection is going to be quite useful as well.
Most of the time.
Yeah, you'll find a use. Like you'll use it like a bad freezing trap if you're in trouble.
Yep.
Or a good one if your opponent's on 7.
This is the third to my side, so Zul'jin is going to be quite large and in charge.
Yep. It's going to be tall and wide.
And stout.
Hunting Mastiff on Echo is always fun, but not when you've already taken the Owl, I guess. Well, that's another... I mean, there's not much big stuff left for Thijs. Virtual's gone through most of the chunky stuff.
Yeah, one Twilight Drake, both Mountain Giants, the Lich King.
And this is where this playing your game backwards comes in as the Warlock. You just run out of stuff. You can no longer rely on Gul'dan to generate a big board for you. He can win you the game,
yeah,
which is quite handy. But in terms of minion pressure, he doesn't do it like he used to. Yeah, and this is where Thijs... Not only is he low on things to do, but he's also low on health. This deck does have a surprising amount of burst from the Hunter.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to the 20, which I think is a very large amount of health for even Warlock.
I think Virtual have more pressure than last year. Now he's the champion.
Honestly, don't think so. I feel like last year's tournament, while it was similar, had a little bit of a different vibe to it. It was painted differently, I suppose. Whereas this year is kind of painted as, I don't know, I guess they're the same. They just had a different name, right?
Well, they changed one number. Like they changed from 2017 to 2018.
Yeah, well, they did call it an Invitational. Didn't they?
Yes. 2016 as well.
But now it's just Hearthstone All-Star.
And a significantly bigger stage.
That's true.
Still a lot of people there last year. I think even more people this year. And this is only day 2. Day 1, because yesterday was community day.
Yeah. But it's a single elimination tournament, so if you want to see your favorite players play...
Yeah, getting here today is a good plan.
Yeah, there's only a 50% chance that you'll see them play tomorrow. Unless they're Hunter Ace, then it's slightly more than 50%.
Yes.
most of the time.
74 or something, yeah.
Yeah, Tyson's in a whole lot of trouble. There's just really nothing he can do, and at any point, Virtual can just, if he doesn't pick up Zul'jin, can track for it. Just has a lot of control-y type spells in his hand.
Well, he's got lethal at the moment as things stand, unless Thijs does something.
Yep.
And there's not many things Thijs can does.
We can Hellfire.
Oh. Takes 3 off the board and does 3.
Well, he would trade in Hellfire, so it takes...
That'd be better.
That would be better. So it takes 8 off the board. And he takes 3.
He has to do it. Because after Ro16, the chance of a kill command being in hand, plus the fact the deck actually runs the card.
Thijs at this point has to hope that Zul'jin is the last card, and that...
And then when he does...
Gul'dan is his next card.
Yeah.
And that Virtual just picked up a whole bunch of duds.
Which...
From Ro16, which at this point is getting close to duds. But the unfortunate thing is that he has...
Mossy Horror and 2 Spellbreakers. That's unfortunate,
also,
too.
Virtual just has Deathstalker Rexxar, which means that he's just going to be able to keep the pressure on regardless of how bad the spells were that he got from the Ro16. He had 2 damage on board, so there was...
Oh, he's going to get the Life Drinker for a little bit of cheeky guaranteed damage.
Yep. Which means that once again sets up for lethal if one of these beasts isn't able to be taken care of or he doesn't heal.
So many lethals here for Virtual. It's been over for a while, I think. As soon as Thijs' hand ran out of big stuff and just turned into Spellbreakers and Mossy Horrors. Thijs is one of those players, I mean, there are very strong players and they do have different strengths. And one of Thijs' strengths is he can find just wins from unfavourable positions, but I don't think he's going to find one here.
No.
And I think that's something that comes from playing suboptimal decks a lot. Is you learn to find ways to use suboptimal cards well when you're in a bad spot. There's definitely a benefit there if you can juggle the 2 things, playing memes and playing real.
Yep. But this is lethal damage with the Flanking Strike plus Kill Command plus either Eaglehorn Bow or Candle Shot, whichever one you fancy. And I think Thijs, while this is a loss for him, I don't think he's too upset about it because he did take 1 win against the Spell Hunter, which, looking at as you mentioned earlier, the statistics of the way his decks match up against the Spell Hunter, it was unlikely that he was going to take a win against Spell Hunter, period. And that was going to basically take a win first guides.
Yeah, I think that sort of thing is better most people's taste. Sorry, TJ.
Okay. But I'm pretty sure being a father just adds 10 years to your age no matter what. So yeah. I got Dan beat. He is a cat, which is not nearly the same.
I have cats. Look what he's done to my age.
I can't even count that high.
Exactly. But the Paladin.
We have turned our curse into our strength.
Even Paladin. I'm still surprised this deck's hanging around when OT Paladin exists, but obviously you build your lineup to do a thing.
Yeah.
And this lineup's thing is hitting people really hard. So it makes more sense in that context.
It takes a little bit to get to the point where you're hitting people really hard. You have to get through the early game, which the hero power helps. Just being able to have something on the board every turn of the game helps.
And then eventually build just a stout board and take them down.
I wouldn't call it a stout board. I'd actually call it a pretty tall board. But
yeah, when you're adding 2/6, I'm going to have to give you the tool on this one. I was trying to avoid it for the entire game.
Ooh. Noble Sacrifice seems like the only real choice here. Hidden Wisdom. Oftentimes, I don't feel like Hunter's going to be playing 3 cards in a turn for a while.
And when they... I mean, you don't get much card draw in this deck, so it's a choice sometimes.
Yeah.
But your opponent has to mess up, usually, for it to work as well, and this is Thijs. It's not me. Double Corpse Taker, obviously, this is the card we always talk about when this deck's in progress. It's the whole reason the deck exists for me. convinced Hunter Ace earlier that Wind Fury Harpy's a bad card, so you shouldn't play Corpse Taker. It didn't go down too well.
You can always play... oh, never mind. No, you can't.
Is it an odd cost card?
Ignore everything that I just said.
Okay. I mean, you don't have to play all even cards. You could change the deck entirely.
Yes, you can.
And sort of have spaces like 1s and 3s.
Well, I do like the Corpse Sticker package in Spiteful Druid, which is not a great deck, by the way. And you play Thrallmock Farseer.
Spiteful Druid's like... Luckily, there's no more sets going to go onto the Spiteful side of things, but it's close. We're just used to Druid being so good that Spiteful Druid looks rubbish now.
Yeah.
It's actually still all right. Turns out that UI is still a good card.
It is, even when you don't play it. Just having it in your deck makes it a good card. Ooh, Master's Call. A pretty crucial pickup there, honestly, for Thijs, because otherwise he wouldn't have really had a play to be proactive on the board. Especially going to turn 4, because Corpse Taker is very threatening, especially since Thijs just really doesn't have too much to deal with it at the moment.
Yeah, it's not the first one that's the big issue, although it's a bit of a problem. It's the second one that's going to be the real issue, and you've burned so much resources getting rid of it. Obviously, you can buff and just clear off with the bits and pieces, but it just doesn't really develop your board. So he's going to actually concentrate on keeping board up.
Which I think is very important.
Now he has some semblance of a board, but that's so much better than no board, especially when your opponent can just make minions for nothing. Because you're going to have a mana left over, so it's actually nothing unless you play your secret.
Yeah.
And really, I think that the Springport is the missing links that this deck needed for the longest time.
How long have you been holding on to that one?
About 20 minutes.
All right, Lorinda, you're forced to cast the rest of this match with only puns.
Not possible.
Not a pun.
You on your own? I can't just produce puns at will. I have to nurture them.
All your puns are premeditated?
Yeah. I have no wit at all, just written puns. Stored puns.
Lorinda takes out his wallet and pulls out an old sheet of paper.
Yeah.
Has his puns already prepared.
The trouble is, if the bits of paper get mixed up, you end up with, like, fed birds.
Yeah. As they always say, a bird in the hand is worth a fed bird.
Anyone who didn't watch yesterday has no idea what's going on right now. If anyone who did watch yesterday had no idea what was going on either, but...
To know what was going on.
Yeah. At least they understand why they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Virtual's spoiled for choice here. This is what's taking him a while here. He can just go in with the Corpse Taker. But bad things can happen. Oh, can bad things happen?
Well, there's two options here. You can go in with the Corpse Taker and protect it with either Noble Sacrifice or Argent Protector, or you can go in with Spike-Rich Steed and just protect it with Spike-Rich Steed. Both of these allow you to push a decent amount of damage, Bloodstained King's obviously more, but what Spike-Rich Steed does is allows you to have a more reliable protection for it.
And Virtual's just going the other way, which is, I'm going to win this the long way. I'm going to run you out of stuff.
Which is actually a great way to do it, especially if you've seen one Master's Call.
Yeah.
Thijs does have Deathstalker Rexar, so this long game plan may not be as reliable as he thinks it is.
Yeah, things are going to turn around rapidly for a turn or two now. But pushing that damage, I think he assessed that that damage wasn't going to end up delivering lethal necessarily. And he could just... If you leave a high main up, bad things can happen to you.
Yeah.
Even without cubes in the deck. It's just a beast.
I wonder.
It's a beast, but... And it is threatening, but... I think I like the other play better. I think I would have liked to see him just suit it up and go face.
It does force your opponent to make trades they don't want to do, but it's not that hard to deal with that Corpse Taker with Hunter's Marks, Deadly Shots, etc. hanging around.
Yeah.
And you have then used your resources, but let's see how that works out for him. It's going to be an interesting fork in the game.
An interesting ebb and flow of this particular matchup.
Can you have an interesting one ebb and flow thing? You can now, I guess. See, for me, this is the whole reason people play Even Paladin, is that
the hold on the attack. Very inconsequential. Really doesn't matter at all. At this point, Thijs, he's going to fall behind on tempo. That's the one problem that Deathstalker Rexar has, is that, one, you're relying on getting kind of the beast that fit the situation, especially against other mid-rangey decks. And two, it's a big mana expenditure to play these every single turn. You don't necessarily know if you're playing the right zombies in any situation. So
yeah, you tend to have to sort of gather them.
You have to gather them, and by that point, like, there's so much stuff you have to play around, because you can take defensive beasts that protect you against the big buffs that Paladin has. You can take very proactive beasts, but then that gets punished by equalities.
But having drawn the Rexar, you can now play the long game, not the Paladin, because you're the one with the huge card advantage.
Yeah.
Whereas beforehand, it was kind of pretty close. You've got a little bit of card advantage to the rest of your deck. But like you said about the tempo, like not having the Master's Call, or having the Master's Call and the Rexar, that's 2 turns you've missed. As it happens, the Rexar did some stuff. I'm kind of curious as to Virtual's plan, having not gone in with that Corpse Taker. We discussed it a little bit, but it's starting to unfold now into a, like, how are you going to do 35 damage situation.
You did just see a Hunter's Mark, so the likelihood that he just gets a big Blessing of Kings minion to stick on the board is higher.
But you need one because Rexar makes you need things.
Very true.
You know,
wiser words have never been spoken.
I'm not sure. I've spoken some pretty wise words.
Deathstalker Rexar makes you need things.
Reporting for duty.
See?
Fair assessment.
So I get paid the big bucks, TJ. Right, so the beating has commenced.
I was able to pick up the Bloatbat plus Poisonous. It's not Rush. It's just Stealth Poisonous.
Yeah, which is going to be a problem with the Spellbreaker that Virtual's kept back. Unless you can stealth it up on the same turn as you play it, which you can't when you've got no mana. Oh, it had stealth.
It had stealth, yeah.
It had stealth. That's fine then. That's the same as Rush.
Yeah, the problem is there's a Noble Sacrifice, which won't kill off the Bloatbat.
You've got dogs.
You do have dogs, but then you're basically using Unleash the Hounds to deal with a single secret, because the dogs would die anyway. The Death Rattle from the Bloatbat. So it's a little bit of a waste of resources.
But you have Rexar, and
Well, you
Rexar
have
makes your
Rexar,
opponent
so
need
honestly,
things.
you're okay with doing that just to ensure that you clear the board at any given turn. And I imagine Virtual, because of this Bloatbat, is just going to pass. Okay, no, he's not.
I feel like he's got enough pressure without adding more at this point, and the downside of this is quite strong.
Well, to be fair, there really isn't a great way for Thijs to handle the Noble Sacrifice. He'd have to have... Actually, there's a lot of great ways.
Yeah, he just has to Unleash the Hounds.
He's got multiple candle shots. He has Unleash the Hounds. He has the Lynxes.
Yeah.
He could pick up a Rush minion.
So I think this is just
Rexar.
not the right thing to do.
I understand why, because he probably thought the same thing that I initially thought, but actually Thijs just...
But your opponent might just attack into the Noble Sacrifice. In which case, it's a great play.
Huh.
Are we missing a thing there, or did Thijs just have a moment?
So,
Or does Thijs just think he can deal with enough stuff with these anyway, trying to roll a Leok there?
Senku's fate.
it was like a very bizarre turn.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I wouldn't even played Unleash the Hounds. I just would have played the Spring Paw, attacked it in,
That would be fine,
evaluated.
yeah.
Then you blow bet, and then you can follow it up with whatever the heck you want because the board's empty and you have initiative. He didn't even press the button this turn.
What it has done is... No, it hasn't.
It hasn't done anything.
It's just made things...
This was a very passive play from Thijs that I don't like. And I feel like we can hold him to that high of a standard because...
So, I agree with you. But looking at the board situation now, Virtual still has to trade if he wants to play any more minions, and Ty's got some damage in. I'm not saying it's right.
But he also spent a lot of resources to do very minimal amounts of damage. And damage is not the way he's going to win this game. It's just by running Virtual out of resources.
Yeah, it just looked like he straight up blanked on the secret. Again, it's only because it's Ty's I'm even pausing to say that. It just felt like...
Ooh! The Huffer!
Actual Huffer.
Yeah. And now Thijs got punished.
Yeah, the Spellbreaker just did the thing.
Protects the 10-9 that also just went face for a whole bunch of damage. Virtual's got decent follow-up, just two okay-sized minions to be able to place on the board. And now all of a sudden, if he picks up a weapon, he's just a couple minion attacks away from winning the game. Still got Tyrion tucked away in the deck. I lied. He does not.
No,
he has the Lich King tucked away in the deck.
Just the Lich King. It's weird. People can't decide what they want out of Tyrion, Lich King, or neither.
I think Lich King is pretty much an auto-inclusion.
I would go without here.
I would go with the bold call and say that if you're not playing Tyrion and even Paladin, you're making a mistake.
Okay.
And I'll take that to the bank. Don't at me.
Bank of mistakes.
But this is also a substantial amount of pressure for Thijs. I don't think the extra damage was relevant. This is,
It's getting pretty close now because Virtual is out of stuff very soon. But like you say, there's still good stuff to come. Just not much. He doesn't need much. But Thijs is one lifesteal minion away from stabilizing them.
ooh. So this is there's a very real possibility for a lethal here. If you pick Timberwolf, you play Snow Flipper Penguin, Flanking Strike a 2/3, Zombies the Huffer for Wind Fury, trade in the 2 Hounds, and then he's pushing 5 plus 16.
Is that more than 15?
Yeah, that's quite a bit more than 15. He did pick it, but now he can't play everything.
We're in a situation where...
What the heck?
I just think that we're playing Timberwolf in a deck where a lot of the cards are sort of slow.
Yeah, okay, so still a potential lethal here because he trades the 5/5 in, a 2/1 and the 2/4. Wait, no!
You okay?
He could have gotten Wind Fury from the buffer. I'm confused.
I think Ty just got halfway through the turn and thought, this will do.
Yeah.
I found it.
But this is the punish.
But this won't do. Wow.
I don't know what's going on anymore.
That makes several of us.
I mean, that's a very fringe out to play around.
What, you play around outs?
I feel like Thijs had a decent shot to just win the game that turn.
I mean, we talk about players...
even if he got +3 attack on the Huffer, if he picked Snow Flipper Penguin with the Timberwolf, he could have played everything.
Yeah.
So +3 attack or Wind Fury would have been lethal because he hits face with the Huffer for 11, and then hits for 5 with the Beast because he does the flanking strike, the double trade in the Hounds.
Yep.
You play the Timberwolf. You have an 8 attack Huffer and a 5 attack, so +3 attack or Wind Fury wins you the game with the Zombeast. I don't know, man.
Yeah, we talk about players all the time, like, oh, he's great at finding that extra 1 or 2%. Well, the counter to that is you can't afford to throw those 1 or 2% away.
Yeah.
And that's how that looked.
That's not a 1 or 2%. That's like a
1 in 14,
40%.
yeah, or more.
Yeah.
Plenty of punishers.
It's a 2 out of 9.
But he can still win anyway. He's still playing a Rexar. He still has enough health to survive a turn, sometimes.
See, he got the Wind Fury.
Avenging Wrath would just be insane now. It wouldn't be lethal, but yeah. He got the Wind Fury you've been talking about. Flying pigs.
He didn't choose it, though. He chose +3 health, obviously. I think that's the better option in this case. But on the Huffer, it would have been lethal damage. I still think Thijs has this.
Unless he attacks with the wrong minion into Eye for an Eye.
I still don't think it matters. Because the highest attack minion he has on board is 4 attack. He's got a Candle Shot in hand. I don't think he'd do anything.
What if he makes a 9/9 charger?
What if he makes a 9/9 charger, which is possible because of Bittertide Hydra plus Stone Tusk board. If he does that and then attacks face with that first and only that, then yes.
Thank you.
He loses and very much so deserves to lose. But the likelihood that that happens is like 1,000,000 to 1. First, you have to get Stone Tusk board Bittertide Hydra.
Then you have to be bad. Which he's not.
Which Thijs has about a 1 in 1,000,000 chance to be bad. At least 1 in 100,000.
Yeah, which is like less than he's earned.
True.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure how you wangle this one so that something good happens. Okay.
All right, that's lethal.
We got there. We got through game number 3, TJ.
You got it. Thijs with, I feel like a harder game than it should have been.
Yeah.
But still manages to find the lethal at the very end.
But I don't think he's happy with himself there. You can usually judge. I mean, he's pretty stony-faced, but when he's competing, this is not when he's streaming. That's an entirely bad.
I ruined it.
So, Shaman is actually the deck that Virtual was possibly going to struggle with in this matchup, and now he's 2-1 down with his weakest deck in this matchup available. So, Thijs has really turned this around. What do you think of Even Shaman?
I love Even Shaman. I would go so far as to say it's in my top 3 favorite decks in the metagame.
Really?
I think it has a very high skill ceiling. I think players underestimate the deck a lot of times. I think it's an all-around decent ladder deck and an all-around decent tournament deck. It's a workhorse.
All right.
Sort of an underdog, but just powerful enough to be in the conversation of one of the best decks in the metagame.
It's stout.
Yeah. Even Shaman represents me as a Hearthstone caster.
Stout caster.
Yeah, it's
as opposed to a shoutcast.
I'm
there?
I am quite stout. I'm also tall and wide. I'm all 3.
I'm one of those things.
But I feel like, you know, it's not the star power of any lineup, which I'm not the star power of any caster lineup. It's often underestimated, which I am often underestimated.
Keep going. I'm enjoying this.
People.
Like analogy.
Yeah. It only runs even cost cards. I don't have an analogy for that, but I only run.
You don't run any odd cost cards.
Yeah.
Some odd casts at times, like this one, for instance, but
it doesn't have a lot of terrible matchups. Doesn't have a lot of great matchups. I think its worst matchup is probably 40-60, which is honestly close to what even Warlock has against it. I think it's more like 45-55.
I'm surprised that even Warlock has hung in there. I think Cube Lock's looking kind of tasty at the moment.
Delicious.
Cubes. You just ignore this? I don't mean the game, I mean the giant.
You get very, very heavily punished by Hellfire if you ignore it.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, you get to drop your Corpse Taker on a potentially decent board. Next turn. Chipping away. It's weird how Warlocks chip away their own health turn and you chip away it, and then you get this sort of crunch point around 19 health where everyone has to make decisions on what they want to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. Even decks, they are good, don't get me wrong, but the odd number turns is just so grim sometimes.
That depends which one you're playing.
I mean, I understand they rise to the top of... I'm not, like, completely crazy. I understand these decks rise to the top of the meta for a reason, and they're good decks, but...
Warlock, your odd cost turns feel great a lot of times.
Because you have a giant.
You can just get to draw a card.
Sure.
I love drawing cards.
You soon get to the point where you can't draw anymore, though. That's why turn 7's the bad turn.
Yeah. But just knowing that I could draw a card if I wanted to is enough for me.
Comfort blanket.
Yeah. Drawing cards is my comfort blanket. Now it's a big opportunity for Virtual to apply some pressure. The question is, does he want to?
Still got that same Hellfire issue that he had some turns ago. But this time there's not so much you can do about it.
No. And you can't play too passively, because if you play too passively and they have it anyway, then you're just going to fall behind on board even further.
Again, that's another even deck issue, is you quite often can't play 2 cards in a turn, so you sort of have to play them while you can. This being a prime example, you'd love to play around the Hellfire, but if you do, when do you play the Corpse Taker anyway?
Well, this does set up for the Fire Elemental should the Hellfire come out.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it should. If that was a question.
Thanks for the analysis, Lorinda.
I'll get there in the end.
Could play it slow.
Or, so what was the slow version, just while he's deciding whether to let go of the mouse or not?
Oh, this doesn't set up for the Fire Elemental. It's going to be 1 damage off the Fire Elemental being able to clear. So good sequencing by Thijs to protect it from a potential.
That's actually, yeah, that will be what the pause was for. He's just counting those numbers most likely.
Yeah, he is very low health, but there's such little damage from hand all the way up until a certain period for even Shaman, where the max damage is like Alec here plus Flame Tongue Totem, which is a 2-card combo that deals 10 damage. That does not go through taunts.
And the champ is on the ropes.
Yeah.
I think. He says, stating the obvious looking at the board, but not so much on the health totals. But unless he gets a Hagatha, some very good direct damage cards. Like more than one, because there's going to be healing in Ty's deck. There's a brewer already in hand.
The problem is,
he's better than...
He needs quite a few turns to set up. First he needs to play Hagatha. Then he needs to play a minion. Then he needs to get burn damage from that said minion.
And he needs to not be dead.
He needs to not be dead by then.
Yeah.
And also Thijs needs to not have healed by then.
So with all that in mind,
a lot of things working against him.
Is it Nimbus time? Are you desperate enough to just need to go deep, throw it to the end zone and see what happens? Hail Nimbus.
It feels weird hearing a young man from the UK talking about football references, American football references.
Yeah. It's my safety net.
Play a little football on the streets of...
I coached a football game at school.
You coached?
Yeah, 1 game. We won.
Wait, football?
Yeah, we won 8-6.
Football or football?
Football. Football.
Football or football?
Football. We won 8-6. And you won't know how the scoring went, because it's impossible for an American to even picture how that game went.
Wait, so American football, right?
Yeah.
So there was 2 touchdowns, one with a failed extra point, and one with
in that
a
game, and nobody can kick in the UK. So there's a converted 2-point attempt versus 3 safeties.
Holy moly! Yeah, I would have never guessed that.
You just weren't ever getting that one, dude.
Sports ball!
Standard of UK football right there.
Before the storm.
That's not too appealing.
No. Okay, so he's on 27. He's got Alakir and Hagatha in hand. That's some damage potential. Thijs, however, has a 7/7 taunt. So Hex is the way. That's what's needed here.
Or Thijs trading in a way that makes him really vulnerable to Hagatha, which I don't think that he'll do.
No. In fact, I think this game he's slowed down a little bit, knowing that the last game may have possibly been a bit messy.
Yeah.
We've seen him hover over cards and then not release a couple of times while he triple checks everything.
Yeah.
It's just another sign of one of the players who's been around for so long is they know when maybe they're not 100% on form. Because even if those turns were correct, the ordering looked a little bit... He just didn't seem to know a plan halfway through the turn. So yeah, he's slowing himself down a touch.
So if he's expecting Hagatha, the trade makes sense because he wants to protect the highest attack minion on board.
Yeah.
But attacking face with that 6/6 would net him extra damage, assuming that Virtual will be able to take care of the Hook Reaver the turn after he plays Hagatha.
Yeah, Thijs really needs to look after himself here, though, because there are hexes in there. And the game could just end if you run out of taunts. I know Hex makes a taunt before you pull me up on that, but...
I think that Thijs can flirt with Disaster for one more turn and play Mountain Giant here. And then the following turn after that can start healing up with Shroom Brewer and Amethyst.
Sure, I think it's right. It's terrifying that you can just lose next turn now.
Yeah, but the only thing you really lose
it's only a 1 in 31 or something.
Or he plays Mercspark Heal against Lightning Bolt.
So yeah, not many great immediate outs for Virtual, but plenty of 2 or 3 turn outs. But he's only got 2 or 3 turns, that's the problem he has.
Fork Lightning.
Try again.
Ooh. Hello.
Wow. That's changed the game a little bit, because now the Hagatha is a real threat, because Thijs, even if he spellstones himself up to decent numbers, is going to have to fend off minions and spells all at once.
Also, Thijs has been foregoing life taps because he's been at such a low life total.
Yeah.
Which means that he just doesn't have too many cards to work with.
The other thing that Shaman's good at, I always highlight this, is good at cards like Fork Lightning. There's a lot of sort of piddly little removal spells that don't seem important in this matchup because it's all about Giants and Drakes, but the Giants have gone, one of the Drakes has gone, and Thijs is down to the little stuff.
Yeah, and cards that you just don't have to put in your deck and you get essentially for free always seem better than cards that you have to put in your deck.
That's just a Hearthstone truth.
Yeah. So pretty much anything that you get from Hagatha, even if it's something bad, like Totemic Might, you're like, ha, I got that Totemic Might for free. And you have to spend 2 extra damage killing my Flamestone Totem.
Yeah. And
Fork
Thijs
Lightning.
that is another thing right now. Thijs has to kill everything. And Hellfire is a terrifying option should he pick up the second one of those.
Yeah.
So this Sunfury Protector is going to have to do some good work, and Thijs is tapping.
Almost out of time.
And yeah, he's just going to heal himself as much as possible, sensing danger.
He's actually going with the heal on the Hook Reaver. What's in the box?
It's a mystery box. You said you never opened the box.
I opened this box all
Just
the time.
not the Conquest pick order box.
No, not the Conquest pick order box. The Haggatha box? Give me some. Whoa!
Oh, wow!
No way!
Virtual just seemingly invincible in this event.
That's insane. And Thijs knows.
Yeah, when things point at your things, there aren't many things it can be.
Yeah. What are you going to do? Zap my hooked reaver? Come on, man. That is exceptionally brutal for Thijs.
And it's really exciting for Virtual.
Yeah, Thijs looked like an overwhelming favorite if we rewind for 4 turns. He had a bunch of unchecked threats on board, even if we go back to last turn.
Well, we were trying to work out ways Virtual could get to turn 8.
Yeah.
And here we are.
And Thijs now needs Blood River Gul'dan stat.
I wonder.
Without Blood River Gul'dan, I don't think Thijs wins this game. Haggatha is that good.
Yeah, you called it. Well, you didn't call it, but you explained that if he got there, that could be a thing.
Yeah.
And even this Fort Lightning could be pretty decent later. Like Virtual saying he just gets to do frogs and stuff.
Frogs and stuff, that's right.
But his hand is actually, considering how deep we are into this game, his hand has actually got good cards left in it. Like he's not dying anytime soon, you would imagine. Whereas Haggatha's going just producing stuff and things. Which she brews up.
About as good as Fork Lightning's going to get, to be honest.
Yeah. Unless you just never want to be overloaded and you just decided you're just not going to play the card.
Yeah. I think you start off with a minion here, probably a Corpse Taker. Nope. Okay.
Nope. Just... You said Fork Lightning was pretty good. How about 2 Fork Lightnings? It's like do-it-yourself mass hysteria.
I think Virtual's plan here is to try and cut off the life tab, maybe?
Might as well. That was a time and true tested method.
I honestly don't know about the allocator, to be honest. I think you could fish for additional removal.
I felt like the allocator felt like a finisher.
Yeah.
But then if you get the ties down to 2 and he hasn't got Gul'dan, he's not going that route. Yeah, I don't like it as much now then. I think I'd rather put ties to 2 and just say you don't get your Ghoulman.
Yeah, but Thijs did not pick up Blood River Gul'dan, which means I don't think he has a single way to win. He can tap and find...
But can he survive if he taps and just whiffs and finds Gul'dan and plays it next turn?
Well, he's dead even if he doesn't tap.
He's used a lot of healing. So, Spellbreaker, Sun Fury... defends you. Slightly.
Yeah, Spellbreaker, Sun Fury, you can even throw in the Vulgar Homunculus.
And hope your Shaman opponent that's getting 3 spells every turn for the entire game can't do 1.
Well, while there are a few spells that deal direct damage in Shaman, there's also a ton of spells that deal 0 direct damage. And then Thijs can hope that he finds exactly Blood River Gul'dan next turn. Because at this point, I think the difference between 1 health and 3 health
It sounds like 0. Nearly.
It's 0.
I mean, when you get lightning bolted, you can make the argument, but it's 0 really.
Yeah. Is there any spell that deals 2 or less damage to the face in Shaman?
Damn it! Cuts me off at the pass.
Oh man, is there?
There must be. I can't think of one though.
Is that 1-mana totem overkill totem idiot spell? I don't know what it's called. It's only a minions. No, it's phase 2.
There's the eel.
Yeah, no, it is phase 2. Yeah, the 1-mana deal 2 damage, overkill, summon a totem thingy.
I don't know idiot spells.
That spell. Oh, well, that'll do it as well. 3 damage to adjacent minions, able to push through with the Alec here. We're going to game 5.
The ebb and fog of that one going to 2 games all.
Yeah.
And can Virtual hang on to his championship, or can Thijs continue to add to his pile?
Direct damage. They have a lot more removal for wide analyze things as well, Lorinda. What's your favorite deck in the metagame right now?
My favorite deck in the metagame is OTK Paladin.
Play or to watch?
Both.
Okay.
Actually, definitely to play. To watch, maybe the mid-range Hunter, actually, because it's so weird how you give up tempo to get value, to get tempo back, and that interaction is kind of interesting. To play, I can't stand that deck, but to watch, maybe that's the best deck. What about you? Oh, Topsy's fun to watch, because there's always that question of did they, didn't they?
Yeah. I think Topsy's more fun to play than to watch.
Okay.
Because there's only one turn that matters a lot of the time.
Sure.
And those decks are not fun to watch when there's only one turn that matters.
I think it's interesting when they have to go the quest route. That makes the game kind of cool.
Yeah.
What about you? What's your favorite to either of?
Favorite to play, probably even Shaman. Favorite to watch has to be anything that draws a ton of cards. I really enjoyed watching the show match yesterday where Gia was playing the Hakar Togwaggle Druid. I do still like watching Druid. I know people are going to be like, Druid! What
Still is the worrying part of that sentence.
Like watching Druid. Ugh.
To be fair, Malagos Druid was interesting to watch when the best players.
Yeah, I liked watching any Druid. Even Token Druid I enjoyed watching. Druid is a deck that people enjoy watching, they just don't enjoy playing against.
Yeah, because it wins, or used to.
Yeah, it used to.
And now you don't play against it, so you don't know.
It'll win again. I still think people just have not found the right Druid deck to play.
I think this is true. I mean, Wild Growth is still... If you mixed up the cards you play in the deck, it's still doing the same thing. It still gets you to turn 10 a turn quicker. Yeah. Obviously, you don't get to play good 4-drops on turn 3. That's huge. But there's plenty of time to adapt and find good 5-drops instead.
Yeah.
And the Nourish nerf, again, a little bit more dangerous, I feel.
Yeah, I think that one hit quite a bit harder.
It's weird, isn't it? Because Wild Growth you would think was the hardest hit when you glance at them, and Nourish is sort of now, because you're nearly at Ultimate Infestation anyway by the time you get to 6.
I think some experimentation with odd and even Druid needs to happen before we can ultimately conclude that Druid is the worst class of metagame. But while we've been blabbing on about God knows what, some Hearthstone is happening in front of our very eyes.
That's such a weird phrase. Your very eyes.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
As opposed to my...
Yeah, exactly.
What's the opposite of the word very?
Not very.
Oh.
My not very eyes.
Jesus, Lorinda.
Are you cheating right now?
Absolutely not.
Okay, good. Here he goes.
Slightly.
I mean, slightly is that the opposite of very?
Yes, it is.
Not narrowly.
Yeah, slightly, narrowly, yeah.
Okay, so
it doesn't
slightly eyes.
Yeah. In front of our slightly eyes. That doesn't make any sense. It feels
Neither
weird
of them make
saying
any sense.
Yeah.
You'll never use that phrase
Do you
again.
ever have those moments where you forget how to spell a word that's a basic word that you've known how to spell your entire
Yes,
life?
I hate it. Really hate that feeling.
What words does that happen to you with?
Tree.
The word tree.
I mean, I can't say that word, so it makes it hard to spell in the first place. I was like, how many E's are in this? It's done that before.
How many W's are in it? I'm sorry, Lorinda.
So am I.
For me, it's the word does.
Does.
Yeah.
Do you like doze?
Yeah. For some reason, whenever I'm writing, I always pause when I'm about to write the word does. Because it just feels so weird to spell it like that.
Yeah. But before your very eyes, you get the letters in the wrong order.
Yeah. But before my slightly eyes, I get the letters in the right order.
Interesting.
Funny how that works. Meanwhile,
Hearthstone.
Hearthstone's still taking place in front of our very eyes.
But no Wind Fury on the Corpse Taker because of how the Wind Fury Harpy works.
That's correct.
Thanks for that analysis, 2-0. Nailing it.
Astute.
Don't call me astute. I think the virtual pause here is game plan. What am I actually doing? Because I can't deal with the giant immediately. I can't push much damage. My opponent has lots of cards.
I don't have anything to follow up.
But I have a Wind Fury Harpy that I can protect. Yeah, so it's... I think the face here from the True Silver is kind of forced because you have another True Silver. Although you do give your opponent... Oh, he was already going to go below 15 anyway. And the face damage for the Corpse Taker is sort of forced because there's no point hitting the giant.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a turn by elimination. And he's facing elimination right now.
That's a bold call to make for Virtual in a game number 5, just saying, I can't figure out if I should hit this Mountain Giant or not, so instead, I'm going to hit him in the face. I'm going to activate Hooked Reaver. I'm going to isolate this Mountain Giant for my Noble Sacrifice. I'm going to put the onus on Thijs to make the plays that get him out of this situation. And this is very different from how Virtual played in the last Even Paladin match that they played against Hunter, where he had the option to pressure early but decided to play for board.
Yeah.
Which at the time I disagreed with.
I feel this one was forced on him. I feel like nothing was good, so he just said, okay, if nothing's good, face is good.
So the model that I've lived by since I've started playing Hearthstone, and this is a lesson, so it's tea time with TJ.
Teacher time.
In honor of me casting with my UK buddy here, we're going to use tea instead of something more delicious. Like, yes. Tea time with TJ. So when in doubt, go face. It's not just a meme. I say that because if you're learning Hearthstone, you'll never know if you would have been punished if you don't go face. If you play it safe every time, you won't learn as fast as you would have if you go face every time.
So you know how you get punished?
Yes. So when you first start playing Hearthstone, just hit them in the face, play as aggressive as possible, and keep note of what punishes you. And then once you get punished by something enough, then in that specific situation, you can change your game plan. Now, these pro players obviously are way past that step, where they've seen every interaction in Hearthstone. Well, not every, but most
everyone in the
interactions
meta, at least, yeah.
multiple times over and over again. So they can make more astute observations as far as what to do. But a general rule, and one that helped me learn Hearthstone the best, was to just hit people in the face, and then if something punished me, I would note it and say, wow, that was a really big punish. Maybe I should play around that in the future. But if you play it safe every time and just keep trading minions, you'll never know what could have been.
Yeah, because everyone tells you not to do this thing, but if you never actually lose to it, then yeah, that's fair. My second day playing Hearthstone, I wrote down all of the AoE spells. I just went through crafting, typed in the word all, and anything that says all minions, worked out what they all were.
That's a much different process than most people are in it. That's a very unique attribute that you have going on for you.
What, not wanting to die to AoE spells?
No, having to write them down to remember them.
And pin them to the screen for weeks.
Sticky notes.
Yeah. They're probably still there, actually. I've never read them.
And every single sticky note ends with comma idiot. Play around Flame Strike, comma idiot.
Play around Consecration,
comma idiot.
I don't remember the rest. So those are the sticky notes.
Those are the two big ones. Of all time, those have been the two big ones.
So many
I guess Lightning Storm's up there on the sticky note list.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Hearthstone's still going on.
It's still happening.
Wow.
When will it end?
How does this work?
Thijs has finally managed to take control of the board.
Yeah, and the card advantage, and his health's high. But we were here a minute ago.
Wait, what?
In a similar game, where he sort of had advantages and didn't win.
Yeah, he has much more cards than last time, though.
This is true.
He also has a Blood River Gul'dan, which...
never appeared before.
Also, especially against an Even Paladin, because they're just kind of making one thing a turn, especially once they run out of resources. There's no card draw in the deck. It's not like the days of old where you just play Call to Arms and just jam loot hoarders in there.
Yeah, Virtual's hand, without any buffs, looks absolutely gruesome.
Yes, but as soon as he picks up a buff, it actually looks pretty decent.
On my watch.
Mossy Horror. If you're gonna ever do anything ever in this match, now's your time. Yeah, going with that. It's not because Mossy Horror's great here, it's because it's so useless for most of the game afterwards.
Yes. And funnily enough, Sunkeeper Tarim gets picked up immediately afterwards. I guess Serenite Chain Gang would be the other threat.
Yeah.
That you could potentially use the Mossy Horror on.
Let me
Last night. Still a surprising card.
In what way?
Just turns out that the 1 extra point of attack and the occasional extra Divine Shield compared to whatever the generic basic card is, the 3/3 for the
Silver
Divine
Moon
Shield.
Guardian.
That one, yeah. Turns out the occasional extra bits and pieces make a massive difference to how good the card is.
Yeah, turns out usually legendary minions are better than commons.
They're meant to be more complicated, but not necessarily better.
Pay to win.
I mean, there's plenty of awful legendary cards.
Yeah. What's your least favorite legendary card?
Lorewalker Cho. Because I never play it, and sometimes I have to cast it.
If you cast it, what?
When it appears randomly with stuff.
Do you remember that deck that I'm pretty sure I linked you at one point that had Lorewalker Cho in it, and I told you it was a great deck?
Yeah, I always look at all the decks. They're great.
And you didn't believe me, and then I got Soddle to convince you also that it was a great deck?
No.
Was that you? It may not have
No,
been
it
you.
wasn't me. You can't convince me of anything, because I don't know what the difference between great decks and bad decks is. But no, perhaps it was me, but I don't think so. There will be evidence on stream if Soddle convinces me it was a great deck. Well, Thijs seems to be just slowly dismantling Virtual here, but it's difficult for him because he's going to expect a buff to actually happen at some point.
Yeah, but he does have a lot of ways to get around that. He's got Bone Mare if Virtual were to just kind of do the same thing he did last turn, where he just plays a couple of medium-sized minions. He's got Spellbreaker if a big buff were to come out like Spikered Steed. He's even got Blood River Gul'dan to follow things up, which he does not have many demons in the pool at the moment.
But that doesn't really matter. It's just the control aspect that matters.
I still think he wants to draw a few cards before he plays Blood River Gul'dan, but the hero power is just so good in this matchup because it allows you to stabilize. You can play around with your life total a little bit more. You can play a little bit greedier and just kill a minion every single turn.
GIF or GIF, by the way?
Bless you. Gesundheit.
Because I think this is Gen Greymane.
Let's move quickly.
I think this is a Last Night.
This curse has become
Gen Greymane.
A Blood River Gul'dan.
There we go. See, we've been saying it wrong all these years.
Jesus Christ.
Told him not to start. I did. And somehow Virtual is hanging in here. But here comes the game changer. He's going to be picked off bit by bit. Thijs on high enough health total that picking these off should be fine.
Yeah, it's only 2 Vulgar Homunculus. Yeah, 2 Vulgar Homunculus that come back, but that's enough to chip down the board to make way for the hero power to, like you said, pick things apart.
Like Virtual can never stick anything terrifying now, especially with Spellbreaker as backup. You've got Bone Mare to speed up the winning process.
Yeah. Also, there's still a ton of removal left in Thijs' deck. I don't think he's drawn either Defiles or Hellfire. Maybe played a Hellfire early on in the game, I believe.
And even if there's an accident, it's only going to be like an 8 health accident, not a massive one. This health's just going to stabilize now. Thijs looking very good for this.
And this is the last push from Virtual. He's going to play the Sunkeeper Tarim. It's basically going to be a net even on power on the board, but it'll protect those 3 health minions. And he's basically saying, if you don't have Hellfire,
yeah,
I'm pushing a lot of damage. But Thijs actually does have a decent way to deal with it. He can Bone Mare plus hero power, unless this minion's traded off, which I would like to see.
Yep, me too. Because now you're open to
Bone Mare plus hero power would be...
precisely that.
Yeah, I guess that's not something you'll generally play around. And Virtual saying,
Maybe he
if I make this trade, I may not have enough damage to win the game afterwards.
He's going to get picked off 3 by 3 every turn, so diminishing returns are going to be pretty hefty on this one.
Yeah. But this is basically a victory march for Thijs. Virtual's only going to draw a single card a turn. It needs to be very high impact for him to be able to do anything. Even Blessing at Kings, because of the way the health works.
Or do you trade in 2 minions, then Blessing up one of the 3/3s and just keep it alive as a 7/2 into the Bone Mare and make it waste mana? It's still not good.
But then the Bone Mare goes into it the hero power anyway. If you do the other way around, where you play Blessing at Kings and just trade 1 minion in, then Bone Mare trades over 1. You don't push as much damage. Your hero power's another.
So you have to go face?
Yeah.
Yeah, so all by elimination once again, the answer is hit him in the face.
Yep.
It's a pattern developing.
Yeah. And he does put it on the right target by putting it on the Gen Greymane. If it gets silenced, it goes back down to a 6/5. Instead of putting on Hydrologist, where if that gets silenced, it goes down to a 2/2. So even though Virtual's in a very grim spot, he's still managing to find the slight differences between losing very badly and losing badly.
Thijs just, Thijs is annoyed at himself. He's missed something there, which means we have to.
Your magic shall not save.
I don't know.
I think he ended up seeing it too late, like the spell break. I think he didn't notice it or something for a few seconds there.
It's possible.
And he's just annoyed that he's thinking so slowly.
But I don't think it really matters. At this point, he just needs to put a stranglehold on.
Yeah, he's not terrified he's going to lose. I think he's just annoyed at his general state of mind.
Yeah.
Pro players are like that. They can win and be angry at how badly they played, even if they didn't do anything particularly wrong as well.
Yeah, now I think it's impossible for Virtual to win. Because even if he drew a quality this turn, he would clear the board. Thijs would hero power. Yeah, Virtual's going to concede, and Thijs moves on to the quarterfinals and knocks out last year's champion.